This is New Orleans, and this is Baton Rouge. And in this video, we're gonna be comparing the two cities, and we're gonna find out which one is better, which one I think is the better move, in my opinion. So make sure you stay tuned to the end of the video, and we're getting after it right now. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know anything and everything about living in South Louisiana, the good and the bad, and about areas like New Orleans or Baton Rouge, you're going to want to make sure you subscribe and tap that notification bell as well so you can be the first to know about the current real estate market here in this area. And if we haven't met before, I'm Carson, and my girlfriend Natalie and I are realtors with Weichert Realtors Loescher Properties. We're also investors and private money brokers as well. And if you were down here in South Louisiana and you were looking to sell a house, we'll either help you sell it or we'll just buy it ourselves. And if you are relocating here, the very first thing you're going to want to do is reach out to us. So give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, or schedule a Zoom call with us. Do what you got to do to get in touch with me or Natalie so we can help you with your smooth move to South Louisiana. So like I mentioned, today in this video, we are covering the topic of New Orleans versus Baton Rouge. Which one should you move to? Which one's the better city to live in? And we're gonna get started with the big easy, of course. We're in New Orleans right now, and the first thing we're gonna discuss is cost of living. How much does it cost you to buy a house in New Orleans? About $400,000, while in Baton Rouge, it's about $339,000. Or you could say $252 per square foot. While in Baton Rouge, it's more like $170. And now, just so you know, these numbers are based on the current median list price for both of these cities. So yeah, it costs a bit more to live here, but at least you don't have to pay for the live music. I mean, technically you don't really have to, but it's a nice thing to do, to leave them a little tip, a little bit of cash in their, their hat or their little bucket there, because it's a nice thing to do. They're working their butt off and they're actually playing good music. And for those of you who aren't gonna buy a house and you would prefer to rent, it costs about $2,100 a month to rent a 3-bedroom apartment in New Orleans. But here in Baton Rouge, it's more like $1,800 a month for that same 3-bedroom apartment, or $1.42 per square foot. And here in Baton Rouge, it's about $1.20 per square foot. Oh, and by the way, property taxes are double here, about 0.86% for Orleans Parish, whereas in Baton Rouge, it's 0.44%, so literally half. So depending on where you live in New Orleans or Baton Rouge, that could be a difference of $280 a month versus about $124 per month because, well, the median home price is lower here, so it's gonna be even lower than half if we're just comparing based on the median list price. Okay, I'm gonna stop doing that. That's probably annoying. Did it again. Okay, I'm done now, for real, I'm done, I'm stopping. As for population, New Orleans has about 390,000 people living in here. Baton Rouge has 221,000. The population has been increasing in the last decade in New Orleans, whereas in Baton Rouge, it's actually been decreasing. More specifically, Baton Rouge lost about 2,000 population in the last 10 years, while New Orleans gained 40,000. Hey, by the way, I do have a video coming out soon about why people are still moving to New Orleans, so make sure you stay tuned for that one. It's gonna be a good one. But like I've said in the past, with higher population does come higher crime. So let's talk about it. What's the differences between the crime in New Orleans and the crime in Baton Rouge? Does one have more than the other? Is one safer than the other? Well, last year, Baton Rouge did report about 12,500 crimes, and New Orleans pretty much doubled that. But it is important to note the difference in population between the two cities when it comes to crime, and here's why. If you look at the like population averages, Baton Rouge reported 146% more crimes than the national average for that population, okay? And New Orleans reported about 150% more crimes than the national average. So what that means is they both have a lot more crime than most cities with the same population, but they don't have a lot more crime, one or the other. I kind of worded that weird. What I mean is that Baton Rouge or New Orleans doesn't necessarily have a whole lot more crime than the other, but if you look at national averages, they do have a lot more crime than other cities. By the way, if you're not moving from a big city and you're wondering how parking works, I'll show you. So usually what you do is just pull up to one of these parking lots or parking garages, and then you're gonna text a code as you can see right here, to the number they provide. And then you download an app, and then through the app you can pay. And so I'll tell you what I paid just to park for 30 minutes while I was in the French Quarter. $20.81. It was $20.81. But I did think it was only 30 minutes. It turned out it was an hour and 17 minutes. And the way I know that is that the app that you download tells you how long you've been parked for. Also, not sure if that was something that y'all actually needed to know or not. I'm just trying to make these videos as informative as I can. You probably already knew that. I probably did not have to put that in the video. So let's talk about acreage. Can you find any land here in either of these cities? Well, in Baton Rouge, there are 53 homes on the market with over 1 acre. Now, in New Orleans, there's literally 0. I'm not making that up. There is 0 homes on the market over 1 acre. Isn't that crazy? Come on, New Orleans, where's the land at? But just so you know, you can buy a vacant lot with over 1 acre in New Orleans. There's 35 available right now, so still not a whole lot. And Baton Rouge, there's 79, so more than double. But I mean, if you're looking for land, you probably shouldn't be looking to move to a bigger city like a New Orleans or a Baton Rouge anyways. I mean, maybe you have to because of job purposes or whatnot, but guys, you can just move to one of the more rural suburbs. We have tons of videos on pros and cons, vlog tours, everything that you need to know about all these suburbs of New Orleans. And we did a couple for Baton Rouge, so you can check some of those out as well. Let's talk about infrastructure for a second. So, I mean, in South Louisiana, pretty much anywhere you go, the infrastructure is lacking a little bit. I'm just being honest with you guys. I tell you all the time, the goal of this channel is to be completely honest about the areas that I serve so that you can make an informed and educated decision before you make your move here. But anyways, in comparison to New Orleans, Baton Rouge, it really is not that bad as far as the infrastructure goes. New Orleans has a ton of potholes. I mean, a ton. It's insane. If you ever come down here and visit, or if you have before, you know what I'm talking about. They're everywhere. It looks like a meteor shower took place. What I like most about New Orleans is gonna be the fact that it's just so, it's famous, it's cosmopolitan, it has such a rich culture. That's what people look for when they're coming to travel to New Orleans or live in New Orleans potentially, is it's all about the culture. That's what New Orleans is about. The bad news in that is that because it is cosmopolitan, people travel really all over the world for Mardi Gras, and not just Mardi Gras, but just to visit New Orleans. There's a lot of tourists, and with a lot of tourists come a lot of scammers and pickpocketers and things of that nature. We've already talked about crime, but I mean, there's always these guys that they try and get you by saying this stupid line. They say, "Hey, I like your shoes." And then you're like, "Okay, thank you, sir." And then he'll be like, "Will you pay me if I tell you where you got them from?" And I forget the rest of it, but anyone that's been in New Orleans and has run into these guys, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But here in Baton Rouge, the touristy thing really isn't an issue. There's not a whole lot of that going on. It's basically just a semi-big population college town with a really good college football team. That is one thing that, you know, Baton Rouge is lacking, that New Orleans kind of has a leg up on, is New Orleans has a professional sports team. Baton Rouge does not, although it does have really good college football team. I'm really not that big of a fan of college sports, to be honest with you. I don't really watch it, but I am a Saints fan for sure. Which also means that I could totally be lying to you when I tell you that we have a good college football team, because I really don't know, to be honest. I don't watch it. I know that a couple years ago we won the national championship, and we have before, but I mean, players are coming in and out of college football. They're only there for 3 or 4 years, so. But I will say that Joe Burrow is very good at what he does at that quarterback position, and he's gonna kill it with the Bengals. Only way I know that is because I watch professional football. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that while there is an airport in Baton Rouge, it's not as good as the New Orleans airport, or technically that's gonna be the Kenner airport. Depends on who you ask. It's technically in Kenner, but we just call it the New Orleans airport, the Louis Armstrong International. But anyways, the Baton Rouge airport does not fly you anywhere you want to go. Your options from the Baton Rouge airport are basically just 4 close major hubs: Austin, Houston, Charlotte, and Atlanta. So we've talked about a lot in this video. We've got 2 big cities, one with lacking infrastructure, one with decent infrastructure, one with a good airport, one with a decent airport. We've got one with a price per square foot of $252, one with a price per square foot of $170, one that's cosmopolitan and kind of touristy, one that's not touristy really at all, but is a college town instead. And both have high crime rates. It's not like one's way more than the other. So I've got a lot to think about. What I'm gonna do is think about all this, gather my thoughts on the way home, and I'll let you guys know what I think. So I've thought about it, and honestly, I'm gonna take paying $20.81 for parking in the French Quarter and the potholes for the experience, the culture, the food, the environment, the city that is New Orleans. I just love it. I love New Orleans. It's just the culture. I don't know. That's what does it for me. It's the culture. Baton Rouge just doesn't have it. Another thing I didn't even mention that I love about New Orleans in this video is just the architecture. I love the architecture in New Orleans. It's stunning. It's so beautiful to me. I love the blue, the pink, the red, the orange, the white, every color home you can think of. I love the shotgun homes. I love that they're prehistoric, that we keep them alive, that we've got some houses that have been sitting there since 1850 and we still make a point to preserve them, keep them alive. It's historic. Now Baton Rouge has some of that too, but it just doesn't compare with the architecture. Maybe I'm being a little dramatic, but I love it. I love the New Orleans architecture. So that's it. That's my opinion. If I had to choose between New Orleans or Baton Rouge, I'm going to take the experience and the culture and the architecture. I'm going New Orleans. But if you're moving here to South Louisiana, then the city that you pick to live in is going to be up to you. If you need some help with that decision, make sure you give me a call or shoot me a text. I'm here to help you guys in any way, shape, or form that I can. But that's about all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got some value. Make sure you like and subscribe and tap the notification bell as well. And I'll see you in the next one.